The upcoming changes to the college football playoff format could be catastrophic to the ACC. Is there anything they can do to fight it?
You are Locked On ACC, your daily podcast on the Atlantic Coast Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Shout out to the everydayers, and thank you so much for making Locked On ACC your first listen and your first watch today. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. I am Alex Donno from Locked On Canes. He is Kenton Gibbs from Locked On Wolfpack. On this episode, we'll talk about pivotal NCAA men's hoops weekend, some big Saturday matchups in the ACC, NFL scouting combine next week. You've got 60 ACC players invited. And we also, next week, Kenton, big summit happening in Dallas to decide the future of the college football playoff format. And all right, so I asked the question at the top, with some changes that could be downright catastrophic in terms of the ACC, the Big 12, and then the G5. They're just getting screwed left and right. Is there anything they can do to fight? Kenton, the answer to that question is both a yes and a no, because there's two different fronts that this war is being fought on right now, all right? You've got an important detail that's going to be decided for next year, the 2025 college football playoff, but then 2026, you turn the page on a whole new chapter, because that's when the new TV deal kicks in and the power structure is completely different. But Kenton, what's being decided for 2025 is the SEC and the Big Ten, we're not happy that there was a G5 team that had a first round bye and a Big 12 team that had a first round bye. So they want to switch it up to straight seeding. They don't want conference winners guaranteed bye weeks. They want to switch it up to straight seeding. Are you in favor of that idea?
No. Conference champions have to mean something. It has to mean something to be deemed the best in your conference. And this is what I was talking about when everybody was saying, oh, what's going to incentivize even playing in your conference championship if you're some of these teams? Number one, the will to compete. There should be a fire in every single young man and every single man that's on those sidelines with a headset on that says, hey, we want to compete. But number two, there should be a tangible positive to winning.
Yeah, I agree.
There should be a tangible positive to say, hey, you had a great season and you won your conference championship. Therefore, you have earned this reward. And if your argument or your question is, well, what makes that one game so special against all the others? Oh, I don't know. Ask every other sport that does it in a very similar way. Ask basketball what's so important about the 9 game or the 4 to 5 games of a conference championship. Last year, NC State had no business in the NCAA tournament in terms of men's basketball. But all of a sudden, they went on a 5-game winning streak at the right time, and they were rewarded for it. So I see it the exact same way in football. Now, granted, football is a different sport. You're not playing no 5 games in 5 days. By that 5th day,
I hope not.
Oh, that's a real
be a lot of CTE going around if you're playing 5 games in 5 days.
That'd be some real Bishop Sycamore talk. But in reality, what we are looking at here is a situation where because the wrong teams got bye weeks, it's our precious babies should have got those byes. Our 3rd and 4th best teams should have got those byes. Don't care. Anybody who has complaints, I'll say the same thing I always say, Donno. What do I say? What's the solution, Donno? It's a magical wand. There's a magical wand. It'll get you more bids. It'll get you a bye week. What do?
Does it start with a W?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Win.
ACC
Win.
James Winston told us what you got to do. You got to eat a W to get your way in. If you win out, if you are a one-loss team and all that good stuff, sure, win out and you'll likely get your bye. But I don't think that multiple teams deserve byes on the strength of, well, on paper, we believe that if you played this team, you would blow them out. Don't give a damn. When you lined it up, did you win? Oh, no, you didn't. You aren't undefeated. Well, sorry, you don't really get to control your own destiny. You get to control your destiny by whether you win or lose.
And if they were to change that, the SEC and the Big Ten want to change that next year, or this year, I should say, 2025.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I talk about there are battles that the ACC and the Big 12 can win, this is one that they can win, okay? Because as far as any changes to the 2025 format goes, there must be a unanimous agreement between all of the FBS commissioners and the Notre Dame athletic director, which basically has the power of an FBS commissioner since Notre Dame is the most high-profile independent. They have to have unanimous agreement. We know Petiti and Sankey want this, but I don't see anybody else voting. Like, I don't know how you can get unanimous agreement to change that next year. And by the way, Kenton, on your stance of not wanting, straight seeding, Big 12 commissioner Brett Yormark, ACC commissioner Jim Phillips, they agree with you. Here's what they have said about it publicly. Yormark, I like I wish Jim Phillips could create quotes more like Brett Yormark. Like Phillips, he uses a lot of big words. Right? Yormark gets straight to the point. Here's what he said: "I do not have the appetite to give up any financial reward that comes with a bye," he said. And he's referring to the $8 million reward that's earned by a team that automatically advances to the quarterfinals. That's a free $8 million if you can get that first round bye. Yormark is not going to willingly give that up. Jim Phillips, he referred to something that you brought up, Kenton, that every other sport, every other playoff pretty much does it that way, where you award conference champions. And Commissioner Phillips says it's not as if this system is so foreign. This shouldn't be used as a convenient rationale. It deserves a review, and we should talk about how it went, but it's not some exotic structure. He said, I'm okay talking about how it went last year, but doesn't sound like he's okay with changing it.
Absolutely. Again, I'm a big proponent of line it up. And when you talk about Jim Phillips and his shortcomings, he just doesn't have the showman. He's cerebral enough. He thinks his way through these problems in a meaningful way, so much so that sometimes he's that guy that thinks of every possible contingency, including those that are absolutely ridiculous. He just doesn't have that showman and that presence that, like,
he needs a little more Hugh Jackman. You ever see The Greatest Showman? He's singing and dancing.
That's what we need. We need that. Brother, this is America. I'm sorry to tell you, okay? Yeah. If you were somewhere over the pond, you might get away with like, oh, yeah, we're very thoughtful. We are Americans. We don't know what a kilometer is. We season our food here. You have to be that big, take up space and be all those things type of guy, which would be my biggest piece of advice to Jim Phillips. Because, again, if I look at most of his moves throughout realignment and all that, objectively speaking, if you look at it from the conference standpoint, not for your individual university, if you're Florida State or Clemson, but everybody else, pretty much, you are looking at, well, damn, this guaranteed us stability. When other teams could have possibly been posting all that stuff, he's done a heck of a job with this. And I agree with him here. He and I are in lockstep here with this decision that, it doesn't make sense to say, hey, winning your conference championship means that you're in, and that's the only reward. When, again, that is not the case in almost any other sport. That is not the case in almost anything else. And again, the only time that you see conference champions being play-ins in the NCAA tournament, it's either they're an 11 seed or they're a mid-major, which, by the way, 11 seeds more often than not are mid-majors or else in at large. So with this being said, there's no way to me that I can look at this in seriousness and say, hey, it doesn't matter, you sweet Pookie Bears of the SEC and Big Ten. You all deserve those buys because the committee decided you're the best. Well, quick question, Donno. Was there an SEC team in the national championship this year?
There was not, surprisingly enough.
Well, it must have been two Big Ten teams, right? Because they're divinely better than everybody else, so it must have been two Big Ten teams. Right?
Of course. Wait, hold on. No, it wasn't, was it?
Well, it seems to me that, again, sometimes when you have to line it up and play those football games, funky things end up happening.
Now, when they're discussing this at the big meeting next week, I would expect Notre Dame, here on this issue to side with the Power 2, because guess what? Straight seeding is the only way Notre Dame can get a bye. Like they cannot, they don't have a conference. They can't get a bye without straight seeding. However, again, this is the battle that Yormark in the Big 12, Phillips in the ACC, this is the battle that they can win, because this one has to be unanimous, right? And of course, the group of 5 is going to side with the ACC, because there ain't no way they're getting a top 4 seed with straight seeding. So this is a battle that can be won by the ACC. However, Kenton, we got to talk about this on the other side. The landscape 2026 and beyond completely changes, and the ACC is powerless. We'll discuss after this on this brand new episode of Locked On ACC. Keep it locked. The NBA is back. The NBA proper. I know we had fun with our all-star props, but when the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started. There's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game. So even if you miss the opening tip-off or you want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. If you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature. It keeps every moment of the game exciting. Whether I'm backing my team for a late game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch 3, I never feel like I missed my chance. Plus, the app is easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thank you for making Locked On ACC your first listen and your first watch today. Make sure for your next listen, you check out our other shows. Kenton Gibbs and Grayson Boone do an awesome job on Locked On Wolfpack, covering all things NC State. I cover all things Miami on Locked On Canes. All right, so Kenton, unfortunately, any power that the ACC, might have to be able to throw their weight around in these negotiations, they have some power 2025. In 2026, we're at the mercy of the Power 2, okay? So executives from 10 leagues, which include the ACC, Big 12, Notre Dame, SEC, Big 10. Well, I guess the other 10, excluding the SEC and the Big 10. So the other 10, including the ACC and Big 12, all agreed in a memorandum last year to give the SEC and Big 10 the decision-making power when it comes to changes to the college football playoff format beginning in 2026. That's when the new TV deal with ESPN kicks in. So, Kenton, we talked about this last year when the Big Ten and the SEC, they started to have those meetings with just the two of them where they're like, oh, we're just chatting. Like, we're not forming an alliance. We're not breaking up. They did threaten to break off. And with them threatening to break off, the ACC, Big 12, and everybody else basically just gave up all the power. So, unfortunately, we talked about this on Monday. We'll talk about it again. The SEC and the Big Ten are going to push for automatic bids. And this cannot begin until 2026, but that's less than 2 years away, the 2026 college football playoff. So from that point forward, if the SEC and the Big Ten, if they want 4 automatic bids apiece, there's nothing Jim Phillips, nothing Brett Yormark or twin brother Michael Yormark or you and me, there's nothing we can do about it. Now, Greg Sankey did say before we announce anything, we're gonna run it by. We're gonna inform and run it by the other conferences. But I mean, listen, if they're in that meeting and Sankey's like, oh, by the way, guys, yeah, we're looking at going to 4 automatic bids for us, 4 for the Big Ten. You guys can have the scraps. Jim Phillips can say, well, doggummit, that's not a good. Is that how people talk? Bobby Bowden, if he was still around. That's not a good idea, Greg. Greg can say, well, you know what? You don't have any say. I have the say. So there's nothing we can do about it, Kenton.
You want to know what that sounds like, Donno? I don't want to put too much of your personal business on there, but you have a child, correct?
I do, yeah. He drives me crazy.
And you moved recently, correct?
Yeah.
You ran it by him, right? You said, hey, this is what's happening. Hey, just to let you know, little man, we're moving. Hey, little one, we're moving. Hey, my little princess, we're going elsewhere. But even if they threw the biggest protest that they'd ever thrown in their life, were you going to stop moving?
No,
No.
nothing he could do about it.
And
Until he starts paying some bills, maybe then he can have a say.
There you go. And here's the problem with this on the ACC's end, on the Big 12's end, on all of these other conferences that just rolled over and gave it up. When you bend the knee once, when you capitulate once, when you give them, where I come from, we got a saying, when you give them an inch, a player might start ice skating. You understand? You cannot capitulate in any way. And let me tell you why, Donno. It's 10 of you to 2 of them. Even if the argument is, hey, they're paying the bills. They're the big boys in town. That's fine, but we're chipping in too. If your son was paying some of the bills, even if you're paying the mortgage, if he's paying the insurance, the lights, and buying groceries, you may be paying the lion's share. But at that point, well, okay, now I do have to seriously consider what you got going on. Now it's meaningful. Let me tell you what I think they should have done. And now it's too late. It's too late. The horse is out of the barn. You can't get it back in. But let me tell you what they should have done. If y'all want to go separate. But know what you're telling the rest of the country. We can't compete at a level that warrants us getting these. It shouldn't be we're guaranteed this. It should be a de facto this. If you're that much better than us, you don't need 4 guaranteed. You should show up and say, hey, by the way, this is what I'm coming with. This is what my boys are doing. We're whooping the wheels off y'all in these interconference games. There is no question about, hey, who are you or who you are not, because we've devastated y'all at every turn. And at which point, hey, you got to sit there, shut up, and eat your food. I'm not afraid to do that. When it comes to ACC basketball this year, I have told plenty of people, this is a historically down year in a way that we have not seen in the ACC in quite some time. Yeah. I have owned that. Hey, we got the wheels whooped off us in the SEC SEC ACC challenge. I own that. If you believe in your conference, tell them it's 10 of us. Y'all go form your own thing. Do your Big Ten ACC or Big Ten SEC invitational at the end of the year, and we'll have the national champion. Y'all can do whatever y'all want, call it whatever y'all want, but we're including everybody. So everybody has a shot. Everybody has an equitable chance at this thing. Y'all are admitting out loud, we can't get it done without a guarantee that our 4th best is going to be in. Oh, whatever will we do if a quarter of our conference doesn't get in the playoff? Woe is me. Too bad, so sad. Take your ball and go home. But these conferences already rolled over and gave it up. And it is what it is at this point.
Well, here's a couple of scary consequences that would come from this that I don't see a lot of people talking about, right? The idea of, and this is going to happen because, again, if Sankey and Petitti's the Big Ten commissioner, if they want this, you can't vote against them. Like they've got final say if this is what they want. But here's some other factors that people aren't talking about as much. So if they make this happen, you're essentially neutering the college football playoff committee. And a lot of people seem to want that. I don't want that. I think the committee should have some say because you're basically, you're guaranteeing we get 4, they get 4, hypothetically, let's say a 14 team, because I think 14 is probably the way they're going to go, not 16, because I think 16, they'll probably feel like they're diluting it too much. Maybe I'm wrong. So if you go 14 team playoff with 8 auto bids to Big Ten and SEC, you're basically not leaving the committee a whole lot else to decide. But for what the committee does have left to decide, Kenton, I keep hearing about auto bids for the SEC and the Big Ten, and then people assuming, okay, well then, the ACC gets 2, Big 12 gets 2, maybe Notre Dame gets 1, G5 gets 1. However, I haven't seen anything about auto bids guaranteeing spots for the ACC and the Big 12. So just because the SEC and the Big 10 get 4 auto bids each doesn't mean they can't put other SEC or Big 10 teams, additional ones, into the playoff. So if nothing is guaranteed for the ACC and the Big 12, maybe they only get 1 team in and the SEC gets 5, the Big 10 gets 5. I don't think there's anything stopping that.
I agree. I 1,000% agree. And this is why I said you do not come in with that type of softness. Oh, we need you. Oh, please come on in. Oh, our revenues will drop if you're not here. Oh, well. You do what you do. Go ahead, enjoy it. Have fun doing your own thing. But again, acknowledge what you're doing. And at every single turn that I could, I would just, oh, they're chicken. Yeah, oh, they're scared. Oh, yeah, they don't believe that they can compete on a fair and level playing field. They believe that they are subject to some divine right because of all these different factors that all these people keep naming. Oh, this conference has the most draft picks. Oh, fun fact, and we'll get into this a little bit later. Donno, did you know the SEC has the most players going to the combine this year?
I mean, I assumed so, yeah.
Okay. They have so many players going to the combine this year that when you combine the ACC and the Big 12, we have one more than the SEC alone has.
Okay?
That's
not great.
Now, here's my question for you, Donno. All of those draft picks, which people kept mentioning, of course, somebody got to the national championship from the SEC.
Oh, wait.
Right? But that's my point. That's my point.
Yeah,
all these external factors, all this, oh, this team has the most draft picks and the draft expert should be on the committee. Oh, this conference has the most this, and this should matter. What should matter? When you put that damn ball down, when that ball is on the field, and it is two teams against each other. You know, I was always taught from the earliest ages, football is an organized gang fight. Well, guess what? My gang got more than yours at the end of the game. That's what matters to me. Not who, not with all due respect. And I love Alan True. That's my guy. I love Brian Smith. That's my guy. I've never met Steve Whitford. I ain't gonna sit up here and lie. Oh, no, I do. I have met Steve Whitford. It's Luganbill. I've never met that guy personally.
I've never had the pleasure of meeting Luganbill either. Actually, he's a Lugan.
Yeah, but I respect all those guys and what they do. It's a grind. It is. It absolutely is a legitimate thing. I don't give a damn. I like Mike Mayock. I like McShay and his partner. That's always that better Kuiper and all of. I like those guys. They're entertaining. I don't give a damn. I want to see what you do on the field. And again, it seems to me like this guaranteeing is stripping that. It's stripping away, hey, what happens on the field matters in lieu of, well, we believe we have a divine right and we're better than you. Therefore, we're better than you. And we're better than you because we said we're better than you. And because we said we're better than you, we deserve more spots than you. Please and thank you. See you later, friend. And that's pathetic in my opinion.
So that's the football tournament. We got a basketball tournament coming up here next month, the month of March. Let's talk about the ACC schedule this weekend. What we feel is the most pivotal matchup in terms of NCAA tournament standings. And you've got Duke going to play in the world's most famous arena this Saturday. You want to keep it locked right here. We're not done yet on Locked On ACC. Thank you for making us your first listen and your first watch today. Make sure for more college basketball, you check out Locked On College Basketball. Isaac Shade and Andy Patton do a fantastic job from bracketology to breaking up the conference tournaments coming up. Available free wherever you get your podcasts and available free on YouTube, Locked On College Basketball. So, first and foremost, Kenton, a team that, of course, will be in the NCAA tournament, been a projected number 1 seed. You've got third-ranked Duke taking on the Fighting Illini, non-con game in late February. You don't see that happen a lot. You definitely don't see Duke do that a lot. I think 2018, 2019 was the last time they played a non-conference game this late, but it was the opportunity to play at Madison Square Garden, Kenton, is why this game was scheduled so late. John Shire talked about it in a recent ACC conference call. Basically, the MSG is a very busy arena. When it came to matching up Duke's schedule with Illinois' schedule, with Madison Square Garden schedule, with all the, NBA and NHL that they host there, February was the only time they could make that happen. And, obviously a big brand like Duke, they want to be at the world's most famous arena. So they made this game happen. Again, Duke's tournament status is very, very safe. They're 10.5-point favorites in this game, but it's a good opportunity for them to showcase themselves in an 8 p.m. primetime game against Illinois.
Absolutely. Even if Duke lost out they would be at worst, what, a 3-4 seed maybe? I mean,
Yeah, probably.
and we all know that's not happening. They're not going to lose out the rest of their schedule, but that is a great opportunity in terms of exposure because, like you said, you're playing in the world's most famous stadium, and I highly doubt you end up on ACC Network or ACC Network Extra. I highly doubt. There's a interesting burning suspicion of mine that won't happen. So, congrats to Duke, even though that game is not super pertinent to, the ACC's tournament odds.
Now, here's one, though, that I'm going to be glued to this weekend. It's going to be a 4 p.m. game. Number 18, Clemson, on the road at SMU. Now, Clemson's in the tournament. They're safe, but the opportunity to get a quad one win on the road, they still have an opportunity maybe to improve their seeding above the 6 to 7 range that they're currently in. And then for SMU at home in Dallas, this is do or die. Like they're considered to be a team that's on or out of the bubble, right? I would say on the bubble because they still have a chance to get in. But this Clemson game, last opportunity they have to get a quad one win, home game for them. So it's a big chance because the rest of their schedule doesn't offer opportunities for big wins. So for SMU, if they beat Clemson and then win out, they probably are in the NCAA tournament, but they got to beat Clemson to get there.
Absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, first things first, you need to take care of what's in front of you. And for Clemson, this is going to be an important game for seeding. If you win this game, it puts you in a much better situation because I believe that Wake Forest on the road will be either high quad one or low quad one or high quad two game. So, I think that puts them in a heck of a position in terms of, again, stacking that resume, making things look good there. So I look at this situation and I say to myself, this game is important to these two teams for separate reasons. And it's also important to the conference because, again, that this SMU team getting in would add a fifth team to our conference having more teams in the ACC tournament or the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, and then of course you have Wake Forest at NC State, which is a game Wake Forest can't lose. Like they can't afford to lose. They're in the tournament right now, projected 11 seed. But they got to take care of business. I'm sure you hope your Wolfpack pull off the upset, though.
Oh, absolutely. My shirt says I'd rather be lost in Raleigh than found in Chapel Hill. So absolutely, I would love for those guys to be fantastic to pull off an upset there. However, the reality is, like you said, this is a game that Wake Forest cannot afford to lose. If they lose this game, and if SMU loses against Clemson, we are at risk of seeing just three. Yeah. Teams make the tournament: Duke, Louisville, Clemson. And I know Wake Forest fans are going to say, oh, you don't know ball. There's no way. I don't think you understand how bad NC State has been this year. And I believe that'd be a quad 3 or 4 loss. You can't have that. You cannot have that.
It's a resume killer. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Of course, Louisville, their tournament future secure. They're 14.5-point favorites at home against Florida State. So, obviously, you don't want to lose that game. I don't think Louisville will lose that game. And that's what you're looking at for the NCAA tournament picture this Saturday. It's always good, man. Obviously, there's a hole in my life when it's not football season. But at least, you start to get really meaningful college basketball this time of year. I don't mind that one bit. I'll trade that in for football season, but I do not mind meaningful college games wire to wire on a Saturday. So I'll be glued.
NC State got me so depressed. I'm watching baseball and wrestling these days. NC State men's basketball got me.
How's NC State baseball doing? Because I had hopes. Miami swept their opening weekend series against Niagara. Who cares? But then they lost to FAU midweek. So it's like I'm already kind of down.
NC State did the exact same thing, swept Fordham, messed around, and lost to Liberty midweek. And Liberty has been a team that traditionally, before the last 2 years or so, always going to be in the tournament, always going to be in that range, but it's less than ideal. It really and truly is. So, I look at this situation and I say, it's baseball. It happens that way sometimes. I mean, Jacob Duden was named the number 1 closer in the game by, I believe it was Perfect Game USA, and he got absolutely rocked against Liberty. So you don't expect that to be the norm. You expect it to be the exception. But, that's where I'm at with NC State basketball. I'm talking about Jacob Duden during a basketball segment.
I mean, listen, I've already been there with Miami. Like I'm focusing on baseball now, and they got if you go down to Mark Light Stadium where they play their home games in Coral Gables, best milkshakes you're ever going to find, the world famous Mark Light shake. So guess what? Even if they lose, the shake still tastes great. They got a cannoli shake at the stadium this weekend. Right, it looks really. I'll send you a picture of it so you can see. It's got an actual cannoli in the shake, which is a nice extra bonus. So
I'm gonna tell you what, the only thing that's dissuading me from that is LeVar Ball just had to get his foot cut off, and I have a belief that all of us eating all these sweets, and when they find the artifacts in thousands of years, what happened to all these people's feet? And they're not gonna understand that we were drinking cannoli shakes and eating the problem. Cannoli out of the shake.
That's true. I'm only gonna get one this weekend. Then I'm not gonna get three. Like I would normally.
Split it with the family. Split the one with the family. Make sure everybody gets a nice little treat.
Well, we even got some. What a treat! We got some baseball talk on this episode. Let us know in the comments. Like, do you have an appetite for more? Because I never know with college baseball. It's such a niche thing that if you guys want more college baseball talk, we'll do it. I can't guarantee we give it prime real estate, but let us know in the comments below if you're interested in ACC baseball talk or not. Thanks everyone for making Locked On ACC your first listen and your first watch today. Have an awesome weekend coming up. Make sure you follow Kenton at Locked On Wolfpack and at TGIF_Kenton on X. Follow my show, Locked On Canes, at Locked On Canes on X. And we'll talk to you next time on another episode of Locked On ACC, part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.